Hey, it's your buddy Peace and Harmony with you here today, focusing in on how to counteract the negative toxic effects of abusers, violators, and perpetrators in one's life. The toxic experience of being with a narcissist can be experienced on very many levels. People who have been with a violator, a perpetrator, even someone who's violent can create a negative hostility, a toxic environment, which has in turn been ingested and really internalized and imprinted in the lives of those who are in a relationship with them, who are either living with them, who are in business with them. They really tend to absorb and really sort of ingest that toxicity. And toxic people can be extremely overwhelming. They can be depressing to people. They can cause a lot of anxiety. They can cause a lot of overwhelm. Essentially, a toxic reaction in one's mind, thoughts, behaviors, and verbalization as well. And this being around really a toxic abuser, a toxic people, someone who essentially is just so overwhelming, someone who is so hostile, someone who's so controlling, someone who wants to have such power over you on a continual basis. It's not normal. It's not healthy. Life is not meant to be lived under the reins of somebody else, trying to treat us like a puppet where, they say, they just pull our strings. That's not how life is meant to be lived, yet that is how some people really do wish to control others in their life. They have an insatiable need to control others and their reactions. So really, how do you emerge from this? How do you get to the other side? How do you get away from this toxicity, especially if it's been internalized in you, ingested to the point where you really have a low self-esteem? You really have kind of like a wounded, scarred inner self. You feel like there's been a pain that's perpetuated and followed you, and you've carried from this sort of treatment for most of your life. Well, people really get to the point where they say, you know what, the pain is great enough. This is no longer, enough is enough. This cannot continue. I cannot tolerate this anymore. I have suffered enough. Enough of feeling like I have to forgo my own happiness to serve you. That is part of the part of the programming that is a result of being around a narcissist. Is they have programmed you to feel and believe that you need to suffer, you need to struggle, you need to feel underneath in order to keep them happy, to keep them appeased, to keep them pacified. This is a lie. This is not true, this is not accurate, and that is not really what is meant for you in your life. Life is meant to be lived, and life is meant to be enjoyed. It's not meant to be subservient, underneath the thumb of, and really behind the 8 ball of others. So really, depending on how severe the abuse is, everyone has their own experience, their own situation, their own case. But really, if you've been around it for quite a bit of your life, a majority of your life, then it can have a profound and really sort of very invasive presence in your life, where it becomes just to the point where you have to get this toxicity out of you. So you really do need to purge them. And oftentimes, for each person, they need to purge them out of their mindset, which means, I'm now changing and using cognitive reframing to change how I see this person. Rather than having an idealized view of them, I'm now having a real view of them. Rather than having a degraded view of them, I'm having a real perspective of them. So idealizing, meaning, oh my God, this was my knight in shining armor, this person saved me, I would be nothing without this person. That's an idealized view, and that's not healthy. Or a degraded view. This person is just awful, they ruined my life, they're a terrible human being. That's a degraded view. But a realistic view is saying, okay, I realize that this person is narcissistic. They have this insatiable drive within them to control others, and I happen to have been in the environment when they're inflicting these tactics, and unbeknownst to me, I was succumbed into, I was seduced into, I was entrapped into, I just was a pawn. But now I'm emerging and coming out of that game. I'm no longer playing that game. I'm now extracting myself, and I'm purifying my thoughts, purifying my body and purifying my soul of that toxicity. I'm no longer subjecting myself to those negative thoughts they've imprinted in me. I'm no longer subjecting myself to the negative self-image that they had created for me, because that was meant to serve them. It was meant purely to serve them and not my true essence. So you really do have to realize that that role that they created for you was to serve them, which is not your truth. That's not your purpose. That's not your reality. So pulling yourself out, from that being submerged and being suffocated there, is very much an act of will, it's an act of desire, and it's an act of need. And really reframing and seeing yourself really as separate from the abuse and the abuser, and reclaiming yourself as your own person, your own personality, your own personhood, your own identity, and saying, aha, and it's just the awareness. And then what John Bradshaw, he describes beautifully in his book, Healing the Shame That Binds You, is accepting yourself unconditionally. He says, to counteract these negative feelings about yourself, make a decision to accept yourself unconditionally. You do this by an act of choice. You do this by an act of choice. I love myself, and I love myself, and I will accept myself unconditionally. Let me repeat that. I love myself, and I will accept myself unconditionally. So when you're feeling these negative feelings about yourself that have been implanted in you by another, which is not true, there's nothing wrong with you. You are an expression of love. You're an expression of the divine. You're meant to be in touch with that and as close touch to it as possible. Yet the negative voices of others have separated you from that. So to really reconnect with that, your true self, your true identity, your true empowerment, is to really love yourself unconditionally. And it's not like, oh my God, I love myself like a narcissist, It's to really embrace yourself in all that you are, and to stop berating yourself, stop using that critical voice that was implanted in you by these other people, and ridding yourself of those, purging your mind of those thoughts, learning to identify it and learn to prune it and learn to stop it. Because it'll have an impact, and it will direct so much of your life. So I really hope you are able to perhaps watch this video again and again and realize where the origin of those negative thoughts really started. Realize the situation and circumstances, and realize that they're not true, and learn to connect with that unconditional love and that power within. Peace and harmony with you here today. I hope these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support.